Hey y'all, it's been a little bit since I've done one of these. Live streaming has definitely kind of taken over a little bit here. But I'm back and I've got some Star Wars news for you today. Rise of the Skywalker director J.J. Abrams sat down with Empire magazine and discussed his approach to the film coming off of Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. And I want to preface this, I actually think he's saying the right things here. However, saying the right things and actually doing the right things are two completely different things. And before I go any further, I want to ask y'all to please hit that like button, and if you haven't done so already, hit subscribe so you can see more content like this and keep this channel humming along. Now let's get into what Abrams had to say. He told Empire, quote, "I never found myself trying to repair anything," end quote. So let's stop it right there. Now, some of you might be a little upset about this. I'm not. You can't really repair an automobile that has been crushed like Eleanor in Gone in 60 Seconds. Although they try and do that with Nick Cage, it's obviously a new car. However, you can get a new car and rebuild it. That's what I'm seeing here. But I might be wrong, but that's what I'm seeing. I think that you can rebuild a new car. I think they're going to try and do that with the Mandalorian, and they might be trying to do that with Return of the Skywalker as well, or Rise of the Skywalker. I don't, Return of the Jedi, Return of the Skywalker, Rise of the Skywalker. It's all blending together now. But let's continue. Abrams goes on to say, "If I had done 8, I would have done things differently, just as Rian would have done things differently if he had done 7. This is what I'm talking about. Abrams admits he would do things different from Rian Johnson. He's actively attempting to distance himself and Rise of the Skywalker from Rian Johnson's Last Jedi. Now, Abrams isn't going to throw Johnson under the bus, so he doesn't say exactly what he would have done differently, and we can only speculate. I'm not going to do that here. If you want to see what I thought was wrong in The Last Jedi, check out my article, 5 Reasons The Last Jedi Was the Worst Star Wars Movie Ever, in the link in the description below. So Abrams continues, "But having worked on television series, I was accustomed to creating stories and characters that then were run by other people. If you're willing to walk away from the thing that you created and you believe it's in trustworthy hands, you have to accept that some of the decisions being made are not going to be the same that you would make," end quote. Okay, now I might be reading a little too much into this, but Abrams notes he believed it's in trustworthy hands. That's past tense there, folks, meaning he might not have liked Johnson's The Last Jedi at all, or he at least had serious issues with it, or, I mean, there's definitely something that he didn't like. Remember, he just a few sentences prior, he already said he would have done things differently, and as we said, it's unclear what he would have done differently, but we kind of do have a little bit of an idea given that Abrams is bringing back the Knights of Ren, and it looks like he might be exploring a little bit of that vision that we saw of where Rey first touched Luke's, or first discovered Luke's lightsaber from Empire Strikes Back. So now this part might throw some folks for a loop. Abrams concluded by saying, "And if you come back into it, you have to honor what's been done," end quote. So now comic book fans know this is absolutely crap. I mean, even film fans know that this is absolutely crap. Retcons are pretty much launched every month in Marvel and DC Comics. I mean, Hollywood's their MO pretty much in current year is reboot some franchise from like the 80s or 90s and give it a new skin. Continuity has been thrown out the window. They try and do some like soft reboot where they'll have the original cast pass down the torch. I mean, it's just typical Hollywood, and the people they're usually passing the torch down to are like a bunch of woke millennials that are some of the most like grating people that like you can imagine. They're just insufferable. I mean. And if you even look at DC Comics, you can't even count how many crises they've gone through. I mean, there's a lot. But I do respect Abrams. He does want to respect the prior material. That's something I've been a critic of Marvel and DC for doing, in which I heavily criticize Rian Johnson for doing in The Last Jedi, especially when it comes to General Hux and Luke's characters. He didn't respect what came before him. He threw it out the window just like Luke threw away his lightsaber and then gobbled down some alien juice. Now, is what we are seeing from Abrams a change in tune? I definitely think so, especially as we get closer to the release of Rise of Skywalker. So we'll just look back at some past quotes that Abrams made regarding the same topic. So back in August, Abrams told ET Canada, the story that we're telling, the story that we started to conceive when we did Force Awakens was allowed to continue. Episode 8 didn't really derail anything that we were thinking about, end quote. Now, that's pretty much what we're seeing Abrams here. He kind of in this quote, talking to Empire, he elaborated on that a little bit. Episode 8 doesn't derail anything. I think he said here he didn't have to repair anything. So those are very similar. That doesn't mean that that Episode 8 didn't go on a different track, and Episode 9 is getting back on the original track. Like I said, you can always repair a new car, put something on a new track. So I think that that's still the same from August and whatever at the end of September here. So he's got his tune is pretty much in line there. But this is where it's drastically different. This is what he told Variety in May, which was what? That's only like 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. So here, this is what he said, quote, working on 9, I found myself approaching it slightly differently, which is to say that on 7, I felt beholden to Star Wars in a way that was interesting. I was doing what, to the best of my ability, I felt Star Wars should be. He added, it felt slightly more renegade. It felt slightly more like, F it. I'm going to do the thing that feels right because it does, not because it adheres to something. Whoa! What happened? What happened, JJ? Why did you change your tune? Could it be Star Wars quarter 3, Disney's quarter 3 financials and their phone call? Could that be the problem? I don't know. But that is a wildly different approach from what we're hearing from Empire and what we saw him talk to with ET Canada. One could argue they are complete opposites. One is to honor what came before, and the other is to do just what feels right. Yeah, that's just those are completely different. I want to know what happened, JJ. What made you change your tune here? But who knows what version we will be getting? And like I said at the top of the video, saying the right things and doing them are two completely different things. Will we see Abrams follow through on his recent comments with action? Or will his comments from May, are they more indicative of what we'll see? And then I kind of want to get into this idea of Abrams actually the idea of needing to repair what Johnson did. I've kind of touched on it a little bit with my my car analogy from Gone in 60 Seconds and then the train analogy. But I think there's still story elements to pull from with The Force Awakens. I mentioned Knights of Ren and possibly that vision that Rey had with Luke's lightsaber from Empire Strikes Back. So I definitely think that, you could definitely explore those storylines. Obviously, I think the Rey Kylo stuff, it's kind of over. It's possible that you could kind of get something out of there. You could have a big twist where Rey and Kylo are brother and sister, kind of oh, you're my from Empire. I could see them doing something like that where you find out that Vader is Luke's dad, and Rey and Kylo are actually brother and sister all along. We had no idea. That would totally throw a wrench in those Reylo people. But I don't know. I don't think that it's going to end up well. I don't think audiences are going. If they do something like that, I think it'll be rejected. I don't think that we're willing to kind of take that leap if the filmmakers do take something like that. I think that Johnson's The Last Jedi is too big of a roadblock to overcome. We've already seen Rey and Kylo fight multiple times, with Rey pretty much taking the W every time except for their first encounter where Rey used the Force to put her to sleep. And then you have all of these crazy, insane rumors running around None of them, and I mean none of them, sound remotely interesting. A fleet of Death Stars, the Emperor returning to possess Kylo, Rey learns Jedi training from Leia. I mean, just that it just doesn't interest me. That's not like I don't know. I'm just not really. I'm not interested in these characters, and their stories are boring now. I mean, The Last Jedi really made them boring. I thought there was a lot of potential with Finn being a First Order stormtrooper and potentially being like he could have been like a double agent or something. They could have done that where he's actually like fakes being someone who switched sides and then he ingratiates himself. But if they kind of do that, I don't really see it given like what we've seen him do where he's like, I gotta get away from the First Order. They're so bad. Like that's just a little too over the top for someone who might be a double agent. Yeah, I don't know. These characters, they just aren't interesting. They really aren't. I want to like Finn. He had like a really good like setup, and they just kind of threw it away. And then Poe, they just I mean, that prank phone call with him was just he should have died. He should have died in The Last Jedi in like the first 5 minutes. But I mean, those are my thoughts. I really don't think that Abrams, like he's saying he can't repair it and didn't derail them. Well, that's because I mean, there's nothing to. I mean, you just can't. You can't repair The Last Jedi, and I mean, it being like derailed. Yeah, it went off on a completely different track. It didn't get derailed, but it was on a completely different train track. So yeah, those are my thoughts. But I want to know what you think. What do you make of Abrams' comments about picking up the story where Johnson left off? Do you think The Last Jedi derailed? Will derail Rise of Skywalker? Do you think that Abrams doesn't need to repair The Last Jedi for The Rise of Skywalker? So let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. My name is John Trent, and you've been watching Bounty in Comics. Until next time.